Everybody, Matt Williams Golf. Welcome back to the channel. Well, we've got an exciting and fun review today. These are going to be for 3 irons that fall into the game improvement category. They come in kind of that branded set from each of the manufacturers that coincides with also their new driver release. And the 3 irons that we're going to be testing today is the Cobra Rad irons, the Cobra RadSpeed irons, the TaylorMade Sim2 Max irons, and the Ping G425 iron. And we're going to just be hitting 7 iron from each one of these brands here and putting them up in a head-to-head battle, checking out the results, seeing if I have any recommendations about maybe perhaps which iron I think performs the best out of these 3. These are real popular categories for game improvement irons. They suit a wide range of golfers, and so I'm excited to start letting these rip and have a lot of fun with them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get after it. Before we get going though, if you haven't already, make sure and subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, maybe leave me a comment if you already gamed one of these irons or if you've been considering these irons. Leave a question if you have a question. I try and get to as many of the questions as I possibly can. You know, let's also remember the backstory here too. You know, I'm a 7.5 handicap now. At the beginning of 2020, I was a 16, so there's been a lot of growth and development. I'm not a club reviewer that has the most immaculate swing. I'm not a scratch golfer or plus handicap or anything like that. And I launched the channel because I thought there was a lot of average golfers that wanted to get more of a, say, average golfer perspective, you know, flawed mechanics and all, on how a club really performs. It's one thing when you watch all the incredible club reviewers out there like Alex Etches and the boys at TXG and Rick Shields and all these just amazing club reviewers out there, and you know, I'm leaving a bunch off the list, but they have immaculate swing mechanics, really good players, and yet I don't think it's that caliber of player that usually is going to game an iron like that. And so I really do find it useful to have somebody more of an average type profile golfer swinging these and seeing what the results look like. So anyways, I'm excited. Here we go. I think the first one we're going to lead off with here is going to be the TaylorMade Sim2. So I don't think we mentioned it at the beginning of the video. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 10 shots of each iron. I'm going to go 5, 5, 5, and 5, and that's the way we'll proceed here. And so the first one that we're going to be doing is the first 5 shots, obviously, with the Sim2. All right, so TaylorMade Sim2 gets the first draw. You know, quite a bit of offset, pretty thick top line, everything that you'd expect in a game improvement category. Yeah, you know, one thing I'll say, and I'll get to looks and design later, but the whole back of this feels like some sort of plastic. There's a little touch of carbon in there. From me, for a quality standpoint, that just doesn't deliver a real great kind of quality iron thing. But at the end of the day, I care about the results, not so much the materials. That was a hair chunky, it felt like. So a little bit of a pull. Yeah, pull again. That's right on line. Looks like it could be a hair shorter though. Whoops. Oh, pretty good pass at it, I think. Just cutting just a tiny bit. Might have been a little shorter than the others. Let's see. A little pulley again, just a little bit. .175 carry, 4,900 RPM, height of 94 feet. Smash factor 1.35. Okay. There are our first 5 shots with the TaylorMade Sim2. Next, we're going to go on to the Cobra Rad. The other thing that I didn't mention is that I'm going to be going with the stock shafts. Now, in the Cobra, in the TaylorMade's case, they come with a KBS shaft, and they're within 5 grams of each other. It's a different shaft in the Ping. And people sometimes might complain about that and say, well, why don't you test them with the same shaft? Because most golfers that get these clubs, first of all, because of, you know, the different options in the different brands, you won't always have the same option. And I think most golfers that game a game improvement iron like this and put this in their bag are going to go pretty close to stock in how they come from the manufacturer with very few customizations or options. So So yeah, I'll be hitting them with the stock shaft that they come from the manufacturers, because I think that's, at the end of the day, what most golfers are really going to be comparing. So now moving on to the Rad. Now the RadSpeed, we'll get into tech later on, but it has an interesting story with this 3D printed kind of filling in the cavity, if you will, to help with stability, launch, everything. And so it's pretty interesting. Now it also has kind of this carbon filling in the top of the toe. Now they're all pretty thick game improvement irons, but with that carbon line, I think it's very eye appealing behind the ball, number one. And number two, it makes the top line look just a hair thinner, which is kind of fun. So yeah, all of these have a fair amount of offset and everything. All right, let's move on. Started out dead center, drew just a bit hair. Well, that's gonna go a little bit right again. Felt like a pretty good swing. Oh, hang on. Looked like it wanted to draw, but it didn't. Stayed on its line, but it is just a hair off center to the left. Not really lighting the world on fire. Fifth one was 87 club head speed, ball speed of 117, smash 1.35, spin 6,100 RPM, height of 88 feet, carry of 165. So we're going to move on now to the first 5 shots for the Ping G425. Yeah, you know, this in your hand and in the bag, this Ping G425 looks really good. I think, to be quite honest, and we'll get into looks later, I think it might perhaps look the best. We'll see. Again, has that screw in the toe, a little bit different font on the numbers. It's got this really cool kind of etched out part here by the heel, which gives you a little bit more flexibility to bend it to adjust that lie angle. So that's a little bit more of a custom option. You know, Ping's been doing that for a while. Now, worth noting, these aren't all the same loft. The Sim2, I believe, is 27.5 degrees. That's a 7-iron, 27.5 degrees. The, what was the other one here? The Cobra RadSpeed, I believe, is 28.5 degrees. And then the G425 is 30 degrees. So they're all fairly strong lofted, but the Ping is the weakest lofted of the bunch. So, first 5 shots with Ping. Not a bad first shot. That's the best swing I've had out of these first bunch, this first round. That was so good. Felt pretty good. Cut quite a bit. Probably took some distance off. Let's see here. 4,900 RPM. Height of 101. 170 yard carry. So those are the first 5 shots of the Ping G425. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through, we're going to hit 5 more of each iron. Not going to talk through them at all, just cut right through them, and then we'll do a summary, we'll look at some data, and we'll figure out kind of which would be the choice of these 3 irons. So let's go ahead and do our next 5 shots with each iron. 3, 3,600 spin, not good. 97-foot apex, a carry of 182 yards. Let's go ahead and start doing a summary of these 3 awesome irons. All right, as we start looking at our data here, we're going to start with looking at our shot dispersion rings. The purple is a Ping G425, the yellow is a Cobra RadSpeed, and the white is a TaylorMade Sim2 Max. Obviously, when you're looking at this, the TaylorMade Sim2, let me get those flashing here. The TaylorMade Sim2, which is flashing now, sure appears to be the tightest by far right to left shot dispersion. Fairly decent front to back shot dispersion, but that right to left shot dispersion is the better. Now, when we look at the Cobra RadSpeed, that was a heck of a lot more consistent on distance, and just so you know, we're only looking at carry, not total here. But it was a heck of a lot more consistent on distance, but man, that right to left shot dispersion was not that great. Then when we look in the flashing Ping G425, it's always harder to see that purple flashing. Now that ring looks really big, and this is just one of my beefs with TrackMan. Because if you just looked at this shot dispersion right here, it's every bit as tight as the Sim2, if not even just a hair tighter. Maybe not quite as tight right to left, but darn close. And certainly tighter front to back. The reason all of a sudden this big exaggerated circle gets made here is because that last shot, and you guys heard me say it, that last one, I just smoked this flyer, which was very unexpected because everything about the Ping G425 iron was looking really, really consistent to that point, and then boom, I hit one out of the ballpark, which makes that ring look way bigger than it really should. So I guess I have to say the Sim2 was the tightest shot dispersion. I really, outside of that flyer, think I like the shot dispersion a little better of the Ping G425. That RadSpeed shot dispersion, you know, that distance consistency is great, but that right to left dispersion is really bad. All right, looking at both the side profile of the ball flight and then also the shot dispersion, let's focus first on the consistency of that ball flight. White was, again, TaylorMade Sim2. Now I'll go up to the Cobra RadSpeed. Very, very close. Again, I'm just focusing on that ball flight for a moment. Very, very close on those two. Pretty dang consistent, actually, really tightly wound together. Ping G425, I don't think is quite as tight as it looks because the color is not as obvious. It's a little duller, and so it's a little harder to see some of the different ones. But quite frankly, folks, the RadSpeed has a little bit higher arc. We'll look at the data here in a second. Looks like it flies just a little higher than the other two, but that is about as consistent as you're generally going to get. Now let's look at the shot dispersion here. That's the TaylorMade Sim2. Pretty good, pretty good. Obviously I was pulling it a bit, but that's something I could address as I got used to it. Cobra Rad, as we expected when we saw the shot dispersion rings, kind of all over the board, cutting it right, pulling it left, even a little hint of a draw on some, just all over the board. And then there's the Ping G425. Again, harder to tell because of that color. It just doesn't jump off the grass as much, or the turf, as we're looking at it from overhead, but pretty tight. Yeah, I think I gotta give the nod to shot dispersion again on the TaylorMade Sim2, but that Ping G425 is awfully, awfully close. Well, this is just interesting as heck here. I'm having a hard time. I was looking over these numbers before I hit the record button here. Just kind of having a hard time knowing what to make. We'll just go left to right here, starting at club head speed. Average club head speed for the Ping G425, 83.3, 86.7 for the Rad, and then the fastest club head speed, the Sim2. Ball speed mirrors that pretty much almost exactly. 117 for the Sim2, 116 for the Cobra Rad, 115. So a mile per hour difference as we go. However, the efficiency, or that smash factor, Ping G425 way higher, 1.38, so getting a lot more, a better efficiency, a lot better production for the club head speed with the Ping G425, 1.34 for Cobra, 1.34 for TaylorMade. Spin, that's a very important one to us. The best in the spin numbers was the Cobra RadSpeed. They're at 5,600, almost 5,700 RPM. and which is not bad, especially for given my swing mechanics on a game improvement iron. That's not too bad. The Sim2 coming in second at 5,400 RPM, and last there the Ping G425 at 4,700. Now, one thing I want to mention is look at the difference. I got upwards of over 6,000 RPM with the Ping G425 at times, darn near 6,000, and over 6,000 with the Sim2. So those spin numbers were really wild and erratic and all across the board. So these are the averages. It would be interesting to see if I could get that Ping to spin a little better. But here's why I'm not as concerned with it. Let's go over to height here. 91-foot apex for the Ping G425, 92 for the Cobra RadSpeed, and 90 for the Sim, meaning that they're all coming in about almost 46, 47, 46. So 46, 47 degrees. They're all launching about over 90 feet and coming in at about 46 degrees. You know, this isn't the greatest spin in the world, but for a game improvement iron, and you get it launching that high and coming down at that descent angle, it's going to probably catch a green and hold on just fine, folks. Now, when we look at distance, and I'm only going to go over carry, that's really the only one I care about. For the Ping G425, average carry of 168.2, 165 for the Cobra RadSpeed, 168.1, so almost the exact same number for the Sim2. Very interesting. So, yeah, I mean, what do I say here? I mean, the efficiency wasn't as good with the Sim2, but the spin was better, the distance was comparable, the height was comparable, the descent angle was comparable. I think the only glaring one here is that the one that starts to come in third place in terms of performance is a Cobra RadSpeed. Look, I know it's got the highest spin here, but that efficiency was darn near the lowest. I get that it had the best descent angle in apex, but that distance was, you know, a good 3, 4, 5 yards, and this is only on 10 shots different. So I gotta feel like based off of performance right now, I would give Cobra Rad the third place, and then boy, that's a tough way between the Sim2 and the Ping G425. I guess I'm gonna say the Sim2 based off of performance, and then in second place the G425.
Okay, back here in my home office, we've hit all the shots, we've looked at the data, so what I want to do is start going through a whole series of boxes and ranking the clubs 1 through 3, and ultimately deciding what I think might be the best selection for somebody looking at one of these 3 irons. The first, and the one thing I will say before we get started on this is, in every category I go through, I would say that it was a relatively narrow margin between these 3 irons. With very few exceptions, none of them really blow the field out of the ballpark. So when I rank these 1 through 3, it's not to say that any of them are bad, it's just which one kind of stands out as the best in all of these categories. Well, if you've watched a lot of my iron reviews, you know the very first category I like to start on is looks. So, with that being said, in the looks category, for number 1, I would go with the Ping G425. It looks great behind the ball, it looks great in your hand, it looks really good in the bag. And when you look at the 2021 lineup for the Ping G425 lineup, from driver through fairway woods, through hybrids, and down to these G425 irons, they have what I call, I guess for lack of a better word, the tuxedo look, or the James Bond look. They're very subdued this year. They just look exceptional. They're very, very sharp. I absolutely love the look of the entire lineup, and the irons do not disappoint. To me, think they are very eye-appealing. Are they the flashiest of the bunch? No, in fact, they probably are the most subdued of the 3 irons. But I just think they are exceptional looking irons. From the font, the numerical font on the toe, or on the sole that is, and then on the high toe they also have the number of the club that you're hitting, the combination of finishes and the finish in the cavity area on the back of the club. I just think it's an exceptional looking iron, whether it's down, sitting behind the ball, in your bag, in your hand. I think it's a great looking iron. Coming in number 2 in the looks category, I'm going to go with the TaylorMade Sim2. I think that is the next best looking iron. Now, it starts to get a little flashier than the Ping G425. It's got a little bit more of a design element to it, certainly on the back. If I have one criticism though, if I may, the criticism of the back of that TaylorMade Sim2 is that back cover area where it's essentially plastic with what appears to be a little carbon insert there, but I think it's all just plastic. To your hand, to the touch, kind of gives it the feeling that it's a cheaper iron. Now, it's not a cheap iron, it's not poorly made. Nothing TaylorMade does is poorly made. It's a quality iron. I just think it gives off a certain vibe of not quality when you feel that plastic back there. But it is a very striking iron. Again, looks good in your hand, looks good behind the ball. Now, moving on then, in third place in the looks category would be the Cobra RadSpeed iron. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so it's very possible that any one of you might disagree with me on this, but just with that neon kind of accent on the back, and when we get to the tech side, we'll talk about this 3D printing, which is part of the technology of that Cobra RadSpeed iron, but I just don't find it to be really that eye-appealing, that composite 3D printing material that's filling most of that cavity. I just don't think it's very linear in design. I don't think it's really the best looking iron. Now, out of the three irons, both the Cobra RadSpeed and the Ping G425 have that screw tungsten insert in the toe. Now, in the Ping G425, it's flush with the face of the club, which looks really good. But in the Cobra RadSpeed, it's embedded and it kind of drilled in, if you will. And I think that just takes a little bit, just a tiny bit away from the looks. But as I said when we were starting this summary, these are all great looking irons. They're all quality irons. They all very, very similar in characteristics and design. And so it's not a wide margin between 1, 2, and 3. But if I were to rank them based on looks, I would go Ping G425 number 1, the TaylorMade Sim2 number 2, and then the Cobra RadSpeed irons in third place. Now let's go to the tech design. They really are very, very similar in design, and there's not necessarily, at least to me, because I've seen it so many times in game improvement irons, there's not a huge tech story. Obviously, they're loaded up with tungsten, particularly on the toe and throughout the bottom, to help with forgiveness, off-centered hits, and to help with launch as well, and distance as well. They're all three pretty thick cavity backs, relatively thick soles, relatively thick top lines for sure. They all have a fairly significant amount of offset. I don't know if the offset is equal amongst the three irons, but they all have a fair amount of offset. In fact, that was one of the things I was struggling with, was pulling a number of shots, which with that offset, that's going to do. But if you are somebody that generally fades the ball, or dare I say slices the ball, that offset's going to help you keep that square, hit straighter shots. Along with the rest of the design, it's really meant to help you get a little bit more forgiveness, get a little bit more distance, get straighter ball flights, and higher ball flights as well. Because the type of player these are suited for, they need all of that help. And there's no insult to that at all. There's even some really great golfers that will probably consider irons like this. But generally speaking, the mid to higher handicappers that might be gaming these irons, they're designed and they pretty much are able to do what they're designed to do. The one of the three irons that has a real tech story to it is the Cobra RadSpeed, and that's in that 3D printing in the back of the club. There's it's a very interesting design. It's very unique to this new iron that Cobra has produced, and it has quite a story. Now, does the performance of the iron match the tech story? That we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but from a straight technological advanced standpoint, that is the most intriguing story, I think, of the three irons. And then the one also unique thing to TaylorMade, if you look at the bottom of the mid and long irons, TaylorMade's been doing this for a handful of years now. They have that speed slot kind of design for low centered hits, to help with face flexibility, both for forgiveness and also for distance as well. So that's a unique kind of trait that TaylorMade, that's not new. They've been doing that for a number of years now, and they continue to do so. One other thing I'll say on the tech side, and I think I referenced this in the video, on the top, they all have pretty thick top lines, but on the Cobra RadSpeed, as it sits behind the ball, it's got that carbon kind of insert, if you will, along the whole top line there. And there's certainly a design aspect to that for club functionality and performance. But I'm going to tell you another thing that it does is it breaks up that top line, kind of giving you less sense that that's a really, really thick club sitting behind the ball, which to my eye, when I'm looking down, I thought that was really cool. I really like the look of that. So kudos to all of those. Now, I have to shout out kind of two concerns on the design of the Ping G425 and the Cobra RadSpeed. On the Ping G425, it's a pretty open cavity back, and there's this huge kind of opening, just cavity, if you will, which is where the name comes from, obviously. But there's just this huge opening back there that to me is going to be a massive collection area for grass, mud, dirt, you name it. When you're hitting out of wet and muddy and dirty lies, when you're not, maybe even from the center of a wet fairway, or if you're off in the rough or in a hazard or whatever. And to me, I'm looking at that going, how in the world, if you maintain your clubs, how are you going to keep that back cavity clean? Because it looks like it's going to be really tough to reach and really tough to kind of get to and clean out. And so I wasn't a big fan of that. Just thinking through the people that are gaming those irons, you know, I just wasn't a big fan of that. I know that's going to be a bear to keep clean. Also, along the same lines, with that Cobra RadSpeed iron, with that 3D printing technology and that framework in the cavity area, that's going to be an even harder area to keep clean and maintain. Gunk, mud, grass, dirt is going to get in there. It's going to be really hard to maintain and keep clean, and I could see that being a growing point of frustration for somebody that owns that iron. So just certainly be advised, you know, and I bring it up now because it's part of the tech design of the club, but it could be something from a functionality standpoint and just a club maintenance standpoint that could be a real pain in your keister. Now, conversely, on the Sim2, the TaylorMade Sim2, that whole back cavity area with that plastic cover and everything, that's all filled in. So that's going to be a much easier club to clean and keep maintained and keep looking good for the long haul. The one concern I will say is that plastic, because I've seen this with golf clubs before where pieces sometimes over, you know, if you have an iron for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you know, are any of those pieces of that plastic part on the back of the cavity going to fall off? And then, of course, that's going to make your club look really bad, and who knows what's behind that. So just something to think about. You know, until that happens, though, it certainly would be the easiest to maintain, keep clean, and keep looking good. A couple other boxes worth touching on here. First, let's talk about feel. This was an interesting one. In terms of the feel category, I gotta say that the Ping G425 felt like it had the best feel. Off-centered hits, centered, really good ball strikes, it didn't matter. It overwhelmingly was the best feeling iron. In second place in feel, I would say the TaylorMade Sim2 was the next best feeling iron. In fact, it was a neck and neck race on feel between the Ping G425 and the TaylorMade Sim2. Coming in third place on the field category was the Cobra RadSpeed. I'm going to tell you right now, that sounded clicky, the RadSpeed. It sounded very clicky, and it just sounded harder than the other two. Even on really good ball strikes, it just felt harder, right? And not as soft as the TaylorMade or as the Ping. So in the field category, Ping number 1, TaylorMade number 2, and then obviously the Cobra number 3. What about forgiveness? Well, in the forgiveness category, boy, it's probably a neck and neck race. I'd probably say in the forgiveness category, I'd say the Ping G425 number 1. And again, it's neck and neck with the TaylorMade. TaylorMade Sim2 number 2 in the forgiveness category. And then in the forgiveness category number 3, the Cobra RadSpeed. This is saying a lot. It's a game improvement iron. The whole design of the Cobra RadSpeed is to be a very forgiving iron. And of the 3, it was the least forgiving of the bunch. And I can't necessarily blame it on the ball striking because I kept rotating every 5 shots. So if I had done them in 10 shot chunks, maybe there was a point where I wasn't swinging the Cobra as good. But since I didn't do it that way, I don't think I blame it on the club. I think genuinely it just wasn't quite as forgiving, despite it being designed to be so. It wasn't quite as forgiving as the other 3 irons. Another category we should touch on is cost or price. number one, I'll start with the cheapest. Number one is the TaylorMade Sim2. And that comes in US dollars about $850 for a set of irons. Now, in Canadian dollars, I got to think about this, but I think that would be pushing about $1,100 Canadian. And doing the conversion in my head in pounds for my English followers, 850, I think that would be around 650, 640, maybe 660 pounds, somewhere in there. So the most affordable, number one, is the TaylorMade Sim2. Coming in at number two in the price point is the Cobra RadSpeed irons. In US dollars, those are at about $899, call it $900. And so I suppose in Canadian dollars, that would top $1,100 in Canadian, maybe $1,150. And then for in pounds, I think that would be around 700 pounds or so, anywhere from 675 to 725 pounds, somewhere in there, around 700 pounders. So now Cobra RadSpeed is in second place in the price category. Coming in third as the most expensive iron is a Ping G425. And that was a relatively, when you think about 10%, it's about over 10% more expensive, 12% more expensive. A set of Ping G425 irons comes in US dollars right at around $1,000. Call it $1,250 or so, maybe even a little bit more in Canadian dollars. And then around 825 pound in British pounds. So yeah, the Ping G425 is the most expensive iron, which brings up an interesting conversation, because you start now, as we get really close to narrowing in on what I think my overall recommendation would be based off of today's test alone. Price point is going to come into this, and we'll include that in the overall summary. Well, as I like to do, anytime I'm doing a head-to-head, or in this case, a head-to-head battle, anytime I'm comparing clubs, I like to crown a winner. That's just how I'm wired. I just like to operate that way. In other words, if, especially a mid to high handicapper, but anybody that came to me and said, I'm considering these three irons, what do you think I should go with? Not knowing anything about your game or your swing or anything else. Here's what would be my recommendation, and ultimately what I would crown as the winner of today's review. And that is going to be, it's a tough one. I'm going to say the TaylorMade Sim2. So give it up for the TaylorMade Sim2 irons, Max. Sim2 Max irons. All right, well, yeah, so I'm going to go with the TaylorMade. When you looked at all the performance categories, it performed either at the best or really close to the best. When you look at the entire body, shot dispersion, apex, distance, landing angle, when you look at spin rate, I think when you look at the entire body of work, and then you add to it the fact that it is the most affordable iron, I think the Sim2 comes in as the absolute clear-cut winner. And yeah, that's based off of today's testing and all the factors combined that I consider: looks, functionality, forgiveness, performance, cost. I think when we go through it all, if somebody came to me and said these are the three irons they were considering, I would recommend, probably first and foremost, the TaylorMade Sim2. Let's go ahead and name a honorable mention. In second place, I'd say the Ping G425. Now, in the performance category, I would say the Ping G425 borderline almost outperformed the Sim2 in almost every category. It was, as I recall, a little bit better ball flight, a little bit better distance. It was certainly more efficient on that smash factor. The only area that it was really lacking is it was the lowest spin of the three irons that we reviewed today. And so there's a little cause of concern, but not really much of one. I mean, I could have almost named the Ping G425 the winner. I think the other thing that was a little bit of why it didn't quite finish in the top slot for me in this particular test was the price. It is the most expensive of the three irons, and if you're comparing it to TaylorMade, who I did name the ultimate winner of this one, it's quite a bit more expensive than the TaylorMade Sim2 irons. I do think it could be a bit more quality iron. Again, if you told me that you felt better after testing the Ping G425, I wouldn't fault you at all, and I almost named it the winner of this one. it was very, very close. So Ping G425, folks, make no mistake, is still a really great iron. You're just going to pay a little bit more money for it. In fact, in some ways, it was almost my favorite iron. Rounding out third place of the review is the Cobra RadSpeed. You know, it was the highest spinning club, but as I recall, it was one of the shortest perhaps of the three. I mean, I think it was really, really close. And I'm embarrassed that I don't remember it off the top of my head now. But it lacked the best feel. It lacked forgiveness. I think maintaining the look and keeping your club clean, there's just so much about it that it didn't quite tick the boxes for me. And so if somebody told me they were looking at those three irons, I think I would tell them, go ahead and rule out the Cobra RadSpeed. So Cobra, if you ever see this, I'm sorry. I love so much of your equipment. Please don't hate me. But I just have to give the nod to TaylorMade Sim2 Max, and then Ping G425. And folks, it was really, really close. Well, gollies, I hope this review helped. If you've been considering these irons, I really hope this review helped. I mean, the whole point of me doing this is to try and give you a little bit of clarity or help crystallize what might be your thinking as you're comparing these irons, considering what might be the next set of irons in your bag. Who are these irons designed for? Well, I've seen single-digit handicap golfers game irons like this. So, you know, I'm not going to say it's not designed for you, but it definitely is designed to mid to higher handicappers. It really checks a lot of boxes in terms of forgiveness and distance and everything else. I will tell you this too, if you are in that category, perhaps give the Callaway DCB a look. And I think what I've done now is, since I maybe named almost a tie, but the top two of the Ping and the TaylorMade, perhaps I'll do another review where I introduce the Callaway DCB to this, because I got a lot of good results when I did my review of that, so you might want to check that review out as well. But in this test, I just hope it helps. Hope it crystallizes your thinking, helps kind of narrow down your search. As always, folks, I never recommend that you buy something sight unseen, even despite any reviews that you see on something. I really recommend that you still got to go in and try them out and make sure they're appropriate for you. Perhaps you'll get different results than I did and find that one of the other irons better suits you, and that'd be fine too. Golf is a very unique game, but I sure hope that it helps. I'm just an average golfer trying to give you an average golfer's perspective on all types of golf equipment, and I really, really hope you enjoyed it. I found it entertaining and informative as well. If you did, make sure, if you haven't already, to smash that subscribe button. I would love to continue to see this channel grow. It gives me the opportunity and the flexibility to give you more and more content, which is ultimately just what I love to do. I love to do this, and especially if it brings value to you. And so far, with most of the feedback I'm getting, it does seem to really resonate with a lot of people. Give that thumbs up. Forget that thumbs down button. Don't worry about that. Give it a thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up button. I sure appreciate that. Leave a comment below what you think about the clubs, what you thought about the review. If you've been interested in these irons and you have any questions, feel free to leave a question. I do my very best to get to all of them. But yeah, this was a really fun day. I really enjoyed testing these three irons. None of them are irons that are going to go in my bag. I've kind of narrowed it down to some other little bit more player performance irons. You know, and so they're not things that I would consider, but they're all really great irons and ones that I think a lot of you would enjoy gaming. So sure hope you enjoyed all this, and we got more videos coming both on the golf course and of course more testing coming as well. And we'll see you guys on the next review. Thanks for being here and watching all this video.